Chapter 49:16. After hearing Chun Feng's decision, the other cultivators agreed with him. That's right. Since you guys want to keep the treasures, you guys should bear the risk. What if you implicate us? Now that you guys are about to lose your lives, you guys are still unwilling to part with the treasures. I really admire you guys. If you want the treasure, then stay away from us. Otherwise, throw it away. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes and met Yi Hong's calm and wise eyes. She immediately understood that Chun Feng wanted to use these people to test if the reason why some people went missing was because they were unwilling to part with the treasures. This decision meant that they had to give up on the lives of these people. This might be somewhat cruel, but it was also the best method at a time like this. If they couldn't find a reason, even though there were still a lot of people here, by the time they reached the entrance, there wouldn't be many people left. Jun Shinbin was also someone who was unwilling to part with the treasures. He was ranked third in his family. He had always been suppressed by Jun Lingxuan and Jun Zitao. Naturally, his cultivation resources couldn't be compared to those two. The Immortal Cloud's secret realm was an extremely good opportunity for him. If he could obtain these treasures, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. It was naturally impossible to compare with Jun Lingxuan. However, there was still hope for him to surpass Jun Zitao. He wasn't willing to give up this great opportunity just like that. Jun Shinbin, are you crazy? Xiao Sudong couldn't help but shout when he saw Jun Shinbin still being so persistent. You really want the treasures more than your life. Xiao Sudong, from the beginning to the end, all of this was guessed by Deep Beichun and the others. Who can be sure that all of this is true? Perhaps all of this has nothing to do with the treasures. Don't you think it's a pity to give up just like that? Jun Shinbin's expression was persistent. Obviously, he had already made up his mind. I know it's indeed a pity. However, nothing is more important than our lives. A trace of hesitation flashed across Xiao Sudong's face. However, it turned into determination in the end. He was very clear that if he left the group now, it was very likely that he would lose his life here. Originally, he wasn't very familiar with Jun Shinbin. However, after coming to the ruins, he had always been with Jun Shinbin. Naturally, he didn't want Jun Shinbin to lose his life here. It's only 5 meters. I don't believe that something will happen. Jun Shinbin looked at Chun Feng coldly before saying to Xiao Sudong, don't worry. I'll be fine. Looking at Jun Shinbin's determined look, Xiao Sudong felt a little helpless. However, since Jun Shinbin had already made his decision, it was useless no matter what he said, so he simply stopped trying to persuade him. After hearing what Jun Shinbin said, the other cultivators had no choice but to agree. Just like that, the group was divided into 2 groups. Bailey Hongzhuang also found that the energy in her body was dissipating very quickly. However, the ruins were filled with the light attribute, so the recovery speed here was also very fast. Closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang began to circulate the demon summoning scripture, absorbing the essence energy in the air to replenish her body. This ruin was full of oddities. This kind of cloud and mist lingered around it, and the feeling of being unable to see clearly was really uncomfortable. Unfortunately, she was unable to decipher it at the moment. Her greatest reliance was this stone. She could only hope that it would help her leave this place. Chapter 49:17. Endless Treasures. No matter what you like, it will belong to you. Come to me. As long as you have these treasures, your future will be bright. Believe me, there will be everything you need here. A summoning voice seemed to come from the bottom of Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. Endless treasures appeared in front of her, dazzling with golden light. The greed and desire of a person would spread to the maximum. All of the greed would explode under this summoning. It was as if as long as she took this step, she would be able to obtain everything she wanted. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips unconsciously overflowed with a trace of smile. Everything that she dreamed of getting seemed to be within her reach. However, just as she was about to take a step, she felt that something was wrong. It was because of this uncertainty that she did not take the first step. It was this short moment of hesitation that caused a cooling power to surge into her mind, causing her confused eyes to shine again. After coming to her senses, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with horror. This kind of summoning power was really too terrifying. Anyone who was not firm in their heart would definitely be attracted by this summoning. Once they were attracted, the consequences would naturally be extremely terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened. Her beautiful face was filled with indescribable astonishment and horror. This place was too terrifying. Only then did she realize that many of the cultivators around her were at a loss. Some of them were even smiling strangely with excitement. She immediately looked at Di Beichun, only to find that Di Beichun was frowning. There was a bloodstain on his palm. It was obvious that he was struggling with all his might. Beichun, Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang called out and shook Di Beichun's shoulder. After a moment, Di Beichun opened his eyes and woke up from his nightmare. Wife. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, his deep and charming eyes rippling with shock and terror. Beichun, it's great that you're awake. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. This place is too scary. Everyone seems to be immersed in the excitement. Di Beichun nodded slightly. The power of bewitchment is too strong. Normal people would not be able to resist it. What happened to your hand? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes were filled with concern. Although they were almost bewitched before, as long as they were not bewitched and left, external forces would not harm them. I always felt that this place was very strange, so I cut my hand before I started cultivating. The pain would make me more awake. Fortunately, I did so. I'm afraid that my reaction right now would be the same as most people's. Di Beichun furrowed his beautiful eyebrows, and his beautiful face was full of dignified worry. This was the first time he had encountered such a method. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She sighed inwardly. Fortunately, Beichun had foresight. At the same time, they noticed that Chun Feng, Di Xiaofeng, Emo Yunjue, Lin Taxing, Nangong Yuqing, and the others were still awake. However, everyone's faces were very pale. It was not because of their injuries, but because this scene made them feel very scared. What the hell is this place? Damn it! Nangong Yuqing cursed. His originally unsightly face looked even uglier under his anger. Chapter 49:18. A trace of understanding appeared on Di Xiaofeng's handsome face. Previously, no one could figure out how those cultivators disappeared without a trace. However, after the situation just now, he understood. These cultivators were willingly lured away. In addition, there was fog all around, so no one noticed them at all. As soon as he said this, everyone nodded. This was indeed the most likely possibility. Don't worry about that for now. The most important thing is to wake everyone up. Di Beichun's expression was extremely solemn. There seemed to be no external danger here, but the most terrifying thing was the attack on one's soul. Once one's soul fell, everything would be useless. The next moment, everyone no longer hesitated and began to wake up the people around them. There was not much time left for them. According to the situation in the main hall, if they were bewitched too deeply, they would not be able to wake them up even if they wanted to. Qianqian, wake up! Lin Taxing hurriedly shook Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian was still in a state of excitement, and the smile on her face had yet to fade. Qianqian, wake up! I am Taxing. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not idle either. They were all desperately trying to wake everyone up. At this moment, everyone could only find a way to leave this terrifying place if they were united. The bewitched cultivators woke up under the shaking of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When they understood what had happened, they could not help but feel a lingering fear. If someone had not woken them up, what would have happened to them now? After Xiao Sudong woke up, he hurriedly looked at the cultivators 5 meters away. At this moment, the figures of those cultivators were nowhere to be seen. They are all gone. Xiao Sudong cried out in alarm. At this moment, Jun Qinbin's figure appeared beside the team. His face was completely filled with an expression as if he had seen a ghost. We can't take those treasures. Seeing that Jun Qinbin had not disappeared, everyone was somewhat astonished. According to their judgment, Jun Qinbin should not be alive. Jun Qinbin, what happened earlier? What did you see? Chen Feng asked. Even though Jun Chenbin was very dissatisfied with Chen Feng, he couldn't care less at this moment. He only said in a panic, "Ghost, there must be a ghost here. Don't panic. Tell us in detail what you saw." Xiao Sudong walked to Jun Chenbin's side and pulled his arm. Jun Chenbin nodded. After calming down a little, he said they all had strange smiles on their faces and then walked in the opposite direction. No matter how I called out to them, they didn't respond at all. It was as if they were immersed in their own world and couldn't hear me at all. Jun Chenbin panted heavily, as if he still had lingering fears about what had happened before. Furthermore, they're all holding treasures in their hands. Their eyes are bloodshot as they stare at the treasures. I saw that the treasure was emitting a demonic blood-red light. Didn't you keep some treasures as well? Why is he fine? Nangong Yuqing looked at Jun Chenbin doubtfully. Since the others had disappeared, it was strange that Jun Chenbin was still alive. I didn't cultivate it before, Jun Chenbin said slowly, feeling a lingering fear. Chapter 49:19. That was because he had chosen to place the treasure not far away from him. Moreover, he did not start cultivating immediately. Instead, he was still unconvinced by Chun Feng's words. Hence, he had been waiting. He was hoping to find evidence to prove that all this had nothing to do with the treasure. As long as he could find evidence, he would be able to reason with Chun Feng and vent his anger. However, he had never expected to see such a scene. After this scene, he immediately understood that Bewitching's previous judgment was correct. Immediately, he did not dare to delay any longer. He left the treasure and approached Bewitching's group. After hearing everything Jun Chenbin said, everyone looked at each other in dismay, feeling a chill run down their spines. In that case, regardless of whether the treasure here is useful or not, as long as we cultivate, there is a high possibility that we will be bewitched. This ruin is deliberately using some methods to exhaust the elemental energy in our bodies, forcing us to sit down and cultivate to recover. This method is used to bewitch our minds. What should we do? If we don't cultivate like this, we won't be able to resist if we encounter danger. Panic and nervousness appeared on everyone's faces. An indescribable sense of panic started spreading in their hearts. All these situations made them feel extremely powerless. For a moment, everyone's gaze shifted to Bewitching's group. These people were undoubtedly their life-saving straw. That was because they had all been bewitched, yet Bewitching's group was still able to maintain their consciousness. As long as the other party was willing to wake them up, they would still have hope of surviving. Everyone, don't panic. Although this place is bizarre, as long as we can resist this bewitching power, there won't be any other dangers. As long as we work together, I believe we will definitely be able to walk out of this ruin. Bewitching's gentle and magnetic voice sounded. Currently, the most taboo thing was to panic. The moment they panicked, their subsequent actions would only make more mistakes. Bewitching is right. Now that we have a clear understanding of the situation, as long as no other tricks are used, we will be able to resist, Chen Feng said. Bewitching, Chen Feng, we will follow you guys. We will do whatever you say. No matter what, we must find a way to leave this place. After the first cultivator expressed his stance, the rest of the cultivators followed suit. That's right, we believe you. I have to leave. I don't want to die here. After everyone recovered their origin energy, they once again began to walk out. While they were walking, the atmosphere of the entire group was very stifling. Not for any other reason, but because in this short period of time, the number of people in the group had shrunk by quite a bit. No one knew how many people would be able to leave the ruins alive. Most importantly, many of the cultivators' relatives had perished in the ruins. It would be strange if they were in a good mood. Fortunately, the cultivators of the D family and the Lin family were still alive. Everyone had their own selfish motives. Even though everyone had tried their best to wake everyone up, the first people they woke up were their own teammates. Although the D family and the Lin family had more practitioners than the other families, the number of people who were awake was also more than the other families. That was why they were able to wake up before they were completely possessed. Chapter 49:20. Hearing this, everyone's mood was still low, but at least they felt better. Compared to other painful ways of dying, dying in this ruin was indeed not painful. Because even at the moment of death, they probably still hadn't woken up from their happiness. Previously, I thought that this immortal cloud's secret territory was full of opportunities. Now, it seems that this place is also extremely dangerous. Di Xiaofeng's expression was solemn and complicated. This place is really too strange. I've never heard anyone mention it before. If you've heard of it, we wouldn't have been so unprepared. Lin Taxing sighed. This ruin had indeed caused him a deep setback. I'm afraid that all the cultivators who came here before have already disappeared. Mo Yunjue's voice suddenly sounded. His eyes were deep. If Hong Zhuang didn't have that stone, none of us would have been able to leave the main hall. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's hearts thumped. Indeed, without that stone, no one would have been able to leave. Since this was the case for them, most likely the cultivators who came here before were the same. Could it be that all the cultivators who came here before were annihilated? Lin Qianqian widened her eyes, overwhelmed with shock. Without Hong Zhuang's reminder, even Qinfeng wouldn't have been able to leave. What do you think? Di Xiaofeng said. Everyone did not say anything more, but in their hearts, they already understood everything. This was their fortune, because Bailey Hongzhuang was also here. Otherwise, they would have been completely annihilated, and no one would even know where they died. We have to be careful in the future. Who knows, there might be ambushes everywhere in the immortal cloud secret territory. Since such a place has appeared, there might be even more strange things in other places, Di Xiaofeng reminded everyone. After all the cultivators gave up on the treasures in the ruin, everyone discovered that there were no more cultivators who inexplicably disappeared in the process of walking. Regarding this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This was perhaps the only consolation that could be given to them so far. Under such efforts, everyone finally saw the entrance to the ruin. The entrance? That's the entrance to the ruin. After walking for so long, we're finally out. I want to leave this terrifying place as soon as possible. I don't want to stay here anymore. A look of joy appeared on everyone's faces. Every second they stayed here, the more they felt like their hearts were about to collapse. Only at this moment did they completely ignite their hope. Almost immediately, everyone rushed outside without any hesitation. However, just as they were about to step out of the entrance, they found an invisible force blocking them. Instantly, the smiles on everyone's faces froze and were replaced with nervousness and panic. How can this be? Why can't we leave? Could it be that this relic wants to keep all of us here? What should we do? I don't want to die here. Under this extreme fear, many cultivators began to lose control of their emotions and became hysterical. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, their moods extremely complicated. I'm afraid we'll have to put in some effort to get out. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Her voice was calm, and she didn't lose control of her emotions like many people. Chapter 49:21. The more dangerous it was, the calmer they had to be. Only in this way could they think of a way out in the midst of a crisis. Di Baichen nodded. Since we were able to enter, we will definitely be able to find a way out. However, we have to think carefully about how we can get out. Mo Yunjue and the rest fell into deep thought as they tried to think of a way out. At the same time, the other cultivators had already begun trying to use their strength to break through this layer of restriction. This time, everyone used all their strength. The desire to live swelled in their hearts. No one was willing to stay here any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang only glanced at them and did not pay too much attention to it. She understood that this method would not work at all. Just like how they could not enter with brute force earlier, they could not leave with brute force now. Previously, when we entered, we waited. However, if we leave now, it's obviously useless to wait. Bailey Hongzhuang tapped her chin with her slender fingers. Her almond-shaped eyes flashed with a puzzled light. Master, is the stone still reacting? Baisher could not help but ask. As a contracted beast, it was not as affected as a human. Even though it had coveted it previously, it had quickly calmed down. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Apart from keeping me awake when I was bewitched, the stone did not have any other reaction. Based on the current situation, the most obvious manifestation of this ruin is greed. Debachin's thoughtful voice slowly rang out. As long as we don't covet anything here, it won't pose any danger to us. Perhaps we need to get rid of this before we can leave. I think so too. Mo Yunjue nodded. We need to get rid of the greed in our hearts before we can leave this place. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. This seemed to be the most feasible method. If that's the case, we can only rely on ourselves to get out. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other and stopped hesitating. Since they could only rely on themselves, there was no point in talking about anything else. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and recalled everything that had happened in the ruin. Immediately after, the bewitching voice rang in her mind again, swaying her heart. Come, all the precious treasures you want are here. I can give you everything you want. Stop struggling, as long as you come with me. However, no matter how bewitching this voice was, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was extremely firm. No matter how many treasures you have, I won't be moved. Everything I want, I will obtain through my own efforts. I don't need your help. None of this is attractive to me. You can keep your treasures for yourself. A bright light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang stood up without hesitation and walked towards the door. Just as Nangong Yuqing and the others were thinking about how to break this layer of restriction, they saw Bailey Hongzhuang directly approaching the restriction. Seeing this, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but roll his eyes. Does she want to go out directly? With the restriction here, how can she go out? Just as he was about to laugh at Bailey Hongzhuang for bumping into the restriction, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang had actually passed through the restriction and walked out of the ruin. Chapter 49-22. Damn, how did she get out? Nangong Yuqing stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang as she walked out of the monument and bathed in the sun. Only then did he react. In the next moment, he walked out of the ruins without hesitation. However, the restriction was still there, preventing him from moving forward. It wasn't just Nangong Yuqing. The other cultivators had the same reaction. However, when they found that they still couldn't get out, they were completely dumbfounded. Why could she get out, but we can't? Nangong Yuqing frowned. This was too strange. However, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang walked out, Debachin and Mo Yunjue also walked out. Seeing their actions, Nangong Yuqing stood to the side and watched quietly. He didn't believe that the two of them would be able to get out. However, reality was cruel. This was because Debachin and Mo Yunjue also walked out without any hindrance. How could this be? Nangong Yuqing's eyes widened as he stretched out his hand. The restriction was clearly there. The restriction is clearly here, so why didn't it stop them? Xiao Sudong also had a suspicious look on his face. This was a little too strange. They must have found a way out, Jun Qianbin said. For a moment, everyone's envious eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Their biggest wish was to leave this terrifying and strange ruin. As long as they could leave, it meant that they would be safe. Even if they stayed here for a second longer, they would be in danger for a second longer. How did you get out? Everyone hurriedly asked. This was their only hope. Once Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, it wouldn't be easy for them to get out. Standing under the sun again, the warm feeling dispelled the cold from staying in the monument, and Bailey Hongzhuang's lips finally burst into a smile. It seems that our previous judgment was right. This is the only way to get out of the ruins. A smile appeared in Debachin's eyes. No matter what, we're finally out. Mo Yunjue's face also revealed a relaxed expression. It had to be said that when he was inside, his mood was indeed extremely depressed. It was only after he came out that he felt much better. Then, the three of them turned around and prepared to remind everyone how to get out. However, as soon as they turned around, they realized that the door in their line of sight had actually closed, and they could no longer see any other cultivators. What's going on? A trace of astonishment appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate face. She looked at the closed door doubtfully. When she came out, it clearly wasn't like this. It's probably because the owner of this ruin doesn't want us to warn others, so he did it on purpose. Mo Yunjue's eyes darkened. The original intention of the owner of this ruin was to keep all of us there. Our departure must have made him very unhappy. If we can't warn everyone, will they know the way out? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but worry. Although they had previously reminded everyone of this idea, they didn't know if everyone could understand it. If they couldn't, then they would be trapped in there forever with no way out. Chapter 49:23. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment before nodding her head. Only then did the worry on her face dissipate somewhat. Indeed, everyone had been shocked by what had happened earlier. That was why they were unable to recover from their shock for the time being. Once they thought about it carefully, they would be able to understand everything and find a way to solve this problem. Nangong Yuqing and the others were standing inside, calling out to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. However, they found that the three of them did not respond at all. At first, they were extremely angry, but when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking inside and not seeing them at all, they suddenly understood. Are they unable to see us? Judging from Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction, that seems to be the case. Could it be that we can no longer warn the people inside after we leave? What should we do? Everyone panicked. Everyone wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, but they had no idea how to do so. Right at this moment, Chun Feng suddenly stood up, looking at everyone who was as anxious as ants on a hot pan. He said, "What's the point of you being anxious here? As long as you can get rid of your inner demons, you will be able to leave." The next moment, Chun Feng stepped out of the door as well. Unsurprisingly, Chun Feng walked out of the ruin without any hindrance. Seeing Chun Feng following closely behind them, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two lit up. Although their previous understanding of Chun Feng had been based on hearsay, from what they had seen so far, Chun Feng was indeed an outstanding individual. Do they know how to get out? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. I did warn them. As for whether they can get rid of their inner demons, that will depend on themselves, Chun Feng said with an indifferent expression. Chun Feng had an indifferent expression as his lips curled up into a smile. I owe you a favor for what happened this time. In the future, if you need my help, feel free to ask. You don't have to be so concerned. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She had only warned Chun Feng. If Chun Feng had not realized the problem himself, he would not have walked out just because of her warning. Hearing this, Chun Feng waved his hand. Perhaps this is nothing to you. However, for me, your reminder saved my life. Bailey Hongzhuang did not say anything else when she saw that Chun Feng had already confirmed everything. Obviously, the other party had his own insistence, so it was meaningless for her to say anything more. Bewitching and Mo Yunjue's gazes landed on Chun Feng. One had to admit that Chun Feng's persistence had caused them to have an even higher opinion of him. When the cultivators in the land of legacy saw that Chun Feng had left as well, their hearts calmed down. They remembered what Chun Feng had said before leaving. If they wanted to leave this place, they had to get rid of their inner demons. Clearly, the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were able to leave was because they had broken through the demonic barrier. Di Xiaofeng and the others had heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, so they naturally understood the solution. However, knowing was one thing, and being able to break through the inner demons was another. The only thing they could do was to stay firm in their beliefs and not be bewitched by that voice. Once they were bewitched, death would be waiting for them. Fortunately, most of the cultivators were also people with firm wills. Moreover, after experiencing what had happened previously, they understood that this so-called bewitching voice was a demon-like existence. Chapter 49:24. After Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 left the ruins, they stood outside and waited. It was not easy for them to reunite with their family's cultivators here. Naturally, they could not leave everyone behind and act separately. Even though Chun Feng was a loner, he had no intention of leaving this place. As the eldest senior brother of the Great Devil sect, he naturally had the responsibility to take care of the other disciples. For a time, The four of them sat at the door and rested, waiting for the other cultivators to come out. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and cultivated. Although the situation in the ruins was extremely strange, it seemed that there were many gains after entering, but in the end, everything was given up. However, cultivating the power of the light attribute here was undoubtedly very helpful. Not long after, the figures of Di Xiaofeng and the others also appeared outside the ruins. "Big brother, you're out." Di Beichen's eyes were filled with a faint smile, and his expression was somewhat relaxed. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly. "You have already told us the method to come out. If we still can't come out, what will happen? Although the others will spend more effort, I think they will all come out later." "Don't worry." Lin Taxing also spoke out. "If it was during normal times, it would be very difficult to break through this demonic barrier by relying on our own strength. However, after experiencing the current situation, everyone's resistance has increased. Judging from the performance of this ruin, the owner of this ruin should be of the light attribute. I didn't expect him to do such a thing. It's really lamentable." Di Xiaofeng sighed. If he had not personally experienced it, he would have found it hard to believe such a thing. In the past, I don't know how many cultivators have fallen here. Just thinking about the terrifying number makes my hair stand on end. A tribute does not represent human nature. Even if the owner of the ruin is of the light attribute, it does not mean that he is a righteous person. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. She looked at this kind of thing very lightly. Just like how she and Beichun were both dark attribute cultivators, they did not think that this attribute represented darkness. Lin Taxing nodded slightly. "After this incident, we all understand. I think that this ruin should really be experienced by the people of the Holy Light Assembly. Presumably, their thoughts will change a lot." "Actually, I think so too." Lin Qianqian frowned. "Although the light attribute is indeed a very powerful attribute, it's still too high and mighty. Any cultivator who wasn't of the light attribute would have some complaints about this. However, even if they had objections, it was useless. I think this situation will change in the future." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with determination. She believed that the darkness attribute would be accepted by everyone once again. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. They looked at each other and smiled. This was their common goal. White Lion also came out very quickly. As a contracted beast, it would not be too seriously bewitched. Moreover, as a beast king, it was naturally extremely firm. After 3 days of waiting, all the practitioners of the Di family and the Lin family finally gathered together. "Since everyone is out, let's set off." A smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face again. "This place is so strange. I think no one wants to stay here any longer." As soon as he said this, everyone nodded in agreement. Chapter 49-25. Dai Haoan looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. "Beichen, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. If it weren't for you this time, I'm afraid we really wouldn't have survived." The cultivators of the two families also nodded and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of admiration and gratitude. "Young master, you are really too powerful." Everyone sighed. The doubts they had about Di Beichun and Lin Mingya had long disappeared. At this moment, they were really convinced. Since Di Beichun came back, although the family head didn't say it openly, they had already regarded Di Beichun as the young master. After all, Di Xiaofeng was going to inherit the Lin family. This had been confirmed in the early years. Even in these years, because Di Beichun hadn't appeared, everyone just thought that they would find another young master from the other children. Now, they obviously didn't have to worry about this matter. Di Beichen was also very calm about the way everyone addressed him. He had already accepted this matter. "All of this is thanks to Hongzhuang." Di Beichen chuckled. "If Hongzhuang hadn't reminded me, I'm afraid I would have been bewitched. Young madam is really powerful." Yes, young madam was the first person to find out that there was a problem. "Young master, young madam, no matter what you say in the future, I won't doubt it anymore. You guys are simply too amazing. I'll just follow your instructions." Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen asked the other children to leave, many people were unwilling to give up. Now that they thought about it, everyone realized the gap between the two sides. As the voice of this cultivator fell, the other cultivators also expressed their opinions. In the future, we will definitely follow young master and young madam's lead. Seeing everyone's reaction, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun also laughed. They didn't expect that after this incident, their rallying power would increase by a lot. However, this was obviously a good thing for them. Why do you think the owner of the ruins wants so many treasures? Di Xiaofeng furrowed his brows. He couldn't figure it out. Furthermore, did he build this relic just to take the lives of other cultivators? If that's really the case, then he's too vicious. Lin Taxing and the others were also puzzled. This was really puzzling. At the very least, none of the ruins they knew about before were like this. Even if there were risks in entering the ruins, it was a test set by the owner of the ruins to select a suitable successor. Unlike this ruin, it was purely for the sake of taking lives. The owner of this ruin might be a ghost cultivator. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said. As the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, everyone present was stunned, and a trace of shock flashed in their eyes. Ghost cultivator? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. A ghost cultivator is actually a cultivator whose soul hasn't dissipated after their death. This situation is somewhat similar to the soul that was attached to Jun Lingxuan's body. However, ghost cultivators are usually people with deep resentment. They are ruthless and have sinister means. If they can't find a suitable place to attach themselves to and other opportunities to strengthen their soul power, then they are very likely to become ghost cultivators. Chapter 49-26. In the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang did not think of this possibility. Because to become a ghost cultivator, one needed a certain amount of opportunity. However, when she recalled everything that had happened, she suddenly thought of this possibility. Based on the current situation, this was clearly the most likely possibility. If that's the case, isn't the soul of the heretic cultivator that had attached itself to Jun Lingxuan's body extremely similar to this ghost cultivator? Di Beichun could not help but ask. That heretic cultivator's cultivation method was obviously extremely vicious. He used the blood essence of others to increase his own strength. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. However, if that heretic cultivator wants to become a ghost cultivator, he needs to find a suitable place for him to cultivate. Otherwise, without a suitable environment, his soul will gradually perish. Usually, ghost cultivators stay in places that are more gloomy and dark. However, this ghost cultivator's place is luxurious and majestic. It's completely different from the usual situation. Thinking about it, he should have a pretty good opportunity. It was precisely because this environment was completely different from the usual ghost cultivators that she did not think about this previously. I see. Originally, everyone didn't understand the reason, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, they suddenly understood. However, once they understood, they sighed even more deeply in their hearts. Hongzhuang, you're too amazing. You even know about this kind of thing? Lin Xianxian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. I don't think you're from the lower realm. Instead, you seem to be from a higher realm than us. The things you know are not any less than us. In fact, you know more. Young madam is really experienced and knowledgeable. Di Xiaofeng's eyes shone brightly. Sister-in-law is not an ordinary person. How can ordinary cultivators be as talented as her? That's true. Where should we continue to head now? Dai Heowen's voice slowly rang out. It's also our first time in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. We don't know which direction we should head in to reap more rewards. I think we should just take one step at a time. Anyway, this place was just a coincidence. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with thoughts. A.O. Lingxiao's current situation is very dangerous. We should think of a way to find him as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with worry. That's right. We should find A.O. Lingxiao as soon as possible. We haven't met any cultivators from the A.O. clan. Who knows? They might have gone to look for him. The other cultivators didn't have any objections to this. They just sped up and looked for A.O. Ling Xiao's figure on the way. There seems to be an abyss in front of them. Suddenly, a surprised voice sounded, attracting the attention of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Hearing this voice, everyone's the voice of the immortal cloud secret. Sure enough, a huge gully that penetrated the ground appeared not far ahead. It split the entire ground into two and exuded an endless aura of danger. Hongzhuang A.O. of the world of the immortal of the great of us Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes were filled with astonishment. Based on the surrounding situation, she could determine how long the abyss had existed. However, after seeing the abyss, Di Xiaofeng and the rest's eyes lit up. Chapter 49:27. Have you heard of this abyss? Di Beichun raised his eyebrows, and his eyes lit up before dimming again. Lin Taxing nodded. I've heard of the existence of this abyss. I've heard that this abyss has existed for many years, and the elemental energy inside is extremely rich. It's very suitable for cultivators to cultivate. Furthermore, perhaps there'll be treasures inside. That's right. I've been hoping to find this abyss before entering the immortal cloud's secret realm. I didn't expect to find it. Lin Xianxian's face lit up with joy. She quickened her pace and quickly approached the abyss. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were not slow either. They quickly approached the abyss. When they got closer, they saw that the abyss was pitch black. They could not even see their own fingers and could not see the situation inside. A gust of wind swept up from the abyss, bringing with it an eerie chill. It was mysterious and dangerous. Shall we go down and take a look? Di Xiaofeng asked tentatively. The other cultivators nodded their heads in agreement when they heard that. They had all heard of the existence of this abyss. Since they were already here, how could they not go in? Seeing that everyone was in agreement, they no longer hesitated and immediately walked into the abyss. This was a huge gully, and everyone could only use climbing methods to slowly descend. Elemental energy adhered to their hands and feet, increasing the friction on their hands and feet so that they could hold onto the stone wall and slowly descend. It was pitch black, coupled with the gust of wind that constantly swept over. It was useless even if they lit a fire. Bailey Hongzhuang condensed her elemental energy in her hands, and the light attribute was instantly unleashed. The elemental energy in her hands bloomed with a gentle and bright light. It was like a luminous pearl, illuminating the surrounding environment. As the light lit up, everyone could see their surroundings clearly. I didn't expect that the deeper we go, the wider the gully becomes. Di Xiaofeng was surprised. He had thought that the gully would become narrower the deeper they went, so he was a little worried. However, based on the current situation, there would be a very wide path below. This reduced his worries by a lot. It seems that the news we heard before was not wrong. There may be treasures in this gully. The corners of Lin Qianqian's lips curled up into a smile. Then, a trace of sadness appeared in her eyes. Previously, Yi had always hoped that she would be able to find the existence of this abyss after entering the immortal cloud's secret realm. However, until now, I still haven't been able to find Yi. I wonder how she is now. She and Yi had grown up together and were blood-related sisters, so their relationship was naturally very good. She had hoped to meet up with Yi as soon as she entered, but now that so many of them had gathered together and she had not seen Yi, she was a little worried. Hearing this, everyone's hearts sank. Don't worry, Yi is so smart. Nothing will happen to her. Lin Taxing comforted. Maybe Yi is gathering with other disciples. After all, we haven't been here for long, and there are many people scattered in other places. Lin Qianqian nodded slightly. I hope so. As everyone went deeper in, Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly feel that the surrounding essence energy was getting denser. Staying in this environment, even if one did not cultivate, there would be endless origin energy entering one's body to strengthen one's body. Chapter 49:28. Speaking of this abyss, I think of the Bitter Sea Abyss. Mo Yunjue's black eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation. When they were in the lower realm, They had been to the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss, but there was no news about the Bittersea Abyss. Thinking back, he had heard from the senior that no one knew where the Bittersea Abyss was. Now that they knew there was an upper realm, perhaps the Bittersea Abyss was here. In this way, everything could be explained. Hearing Imo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes lit up. The Bittersea Abyss was also a place they wanted to go. Big brother, do you know where the Bittersea Abyss is? Di Beichen asked. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. I have heard of the Bittersea Abyss, but no one knows where it is. That's right. From ancient books, we know that the Bittersea Abyss is a treasure land, but as far as I know, no one knows where it is. Maybe it doesn't exist at all. Lin Taxing raised his eyebrows. There was a hint of helplessness between his brows, and a trace of curiosity flashed in his eyes. I heard that the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss are both in the lower realm. Have you been there? Yes, I heard that the Bloodland Abyss and the Demonic Abyss are very beneficial to cultivators. Once you succeed, you will gain an aura field and improve your combat strength. Lin Xianxian's face was filled with excitement, and then she helplessly drooped her head. It's a pity that we can't go. We only know about it from the ancient books. It's really depressing. We've all been there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, but there was doubt in her eyes. Why can't you go? Whether it was the Bloodland Abyss or the Demonic Abyss, they were excellent places for cultivators to gain experience. Logically speaking, these two places should be more suitable for cultivators from the upper realm. If these two places were in the upper realm, the number of successful cultivators would increase by a lot. In fact, cultivators from the upper realm would also go in the beginning, but you also know the difference in strength between the upper realm and the lower realm. Moreover, most of the genius cultivators were young and full of vigor. After going to the lower realms, they would become overlords, suppressing the development of the cultivators in the lower realms. Not only that, but it also caused quite a bit of trouble back then. In the end, all the major forces decided to manage the passage between the two places. Ordinary cultivators are not allowed to enter the lower realm at all. Naturally, we don't have the chance to go. Lin Xianxian's pretty face was full of distress and unwillingness. If there's a chance, I really want to see the two abysses. Unfortunately, I've already missed the time to break through. I'm destined to never have the chance in this lifetime. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally understood. But wouldn't that be unfair to you? That can't be helped. Dai Heoan chuckled. Although losing the two abysses will cause a certain loss to the upper realm, if the people from the upper realm go to the lower realm will suffer an even greater loss. Comparing the two, this method was naturally more suitable. After all, the cultivators of the lower realms also need space to develop. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. She had a deep understanding of this point. Just like how the cultivators of Penglai Island would not easily go to the outside world, it was also because of this point. Chapter 49-29. By the way, Hongzhuang, since you've gone to the Two Abyss, can you tell me about the situation inside? Is it really the same as described in the ancient books? Lin Xianxian's eyes were filled with excitement and curiosity. Although there were many things in the upper realm that the lower realm could not compare to, they could not compare to the lower realm in this aspect. Bailey Hongzhuang roughly explained the situation in the Two Abyss. Dai Heoan and the other disciples of the two families also pricked up their ears and listened attentively. They were also filled with curiosity about this point. So, we'd really like this. After so many years, it hasn't changed much from what was recorded in the ancient books. Dai Heoan said with a smile. Then have you seen the cultivators who obtained the inheritance? Lin Taxing was also interested. I heard that the inheritances of the Two Abyss are very impressive. I have. Di Beichen's lips curved into a playful smile. Really? Di Xiaofeng was surprised. Are their combat strength powerful? It's all right. You speak so casually. I heard that these two inheritances are very impressive. They are inheritances that even the disciples of the aristocratic families are envious of. Di Xiaofeng glanced at Di Beichen. Are you kidding me? Seeing Di Xiaofeng roll his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Di Beichen was simply teasing Di Xiaofeng. Hongzhuang, what are you laughing at? Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. Why do I see your expression so strange? Far away on the horizon, but close in front of you, Di Beichen said quietly. Di Xiaofeng was slightly taken aback. Before he could understand what this meant, Lin Taxing suddenly widened his eyes. Could it be that one of you obtained the inheritance? Following Lin Taxing's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Is this true? I only obtained the inheritance of the demonic abyss, Mo Yunjue said slowly. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng and the others all looked at Mo Yunjue in shock and curiosity. I heard that it's not easy to obtain the inheritance. Yunjue, show us the murderous aura field next time. I knew that Yunjue is also a first-rate genius. Looking at everyone's excited eyes, a trace of helplessness appeared in Mo Yunjue's cold eyes. He continued, they're the ones who obtained the 2 inheritances. The reason he said that he obtained the inheritance of the murderous aura field. Originally, when everyone knew that Mo Yunjue had obtained the murderous aura inheritance, they were already very surprised. According to their understanding, it was not an easy task to obtain this inheritance. Even they may not have the confidence to succeed. Mo Yunjue could succeed, which meant that he was a genius cultivator with unlimited potential. However, when they heard Mo Yunjue say that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang obtained the 2 inheritances, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with disbelief. No way? The 3 of you all passed? Di Xiaofeng said in astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Since they returned to the Di family, they had not fought with anyone. It was not strange that Di Xiaofeng and the others did not know. That's right. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Chapter 49:30. It seems that we may have misunderstood the inheritance of the 2 abysses. Di Xiaofeng pondered. Hearing this, Lin Qianqian looked puzzled. What misunderstanding? This inheritance must be very easy to obtain. Look, even Beichen obtained it. It must be very simple. Di Xiaofeng spread out his hands, looking as if that was how it should be. Ahem. Di Beichen coughed softly, his handsome face full of helplessness. Everyone could not help but laugh when they saw this. They naturally understood that Di Xiaofeng was just deliberately teasing Di Beichen. In that case, the upper realm does not have the bitter sea abyss? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. I always feel that since there is such a saying, the bitter sea abyss should exist. She believed that the ancient books would not casually record it. Since such a saying had been circulating for a long time, it proved that it did exist. However, this saying also revealed one thing. The existence of the bitter sea abyss was very secretive, and almost no one knew of its existence. According to her thoughts, those cultivators who had reached the bitter sea abyss were just lucky enough to encounter it. The journey must be very difficult to remember, or it might change from time to time. It was precisely because of this that the bitter sea abyss was an existence that everyone could not find. She had already been to 2 of the 3 abysses and obtained the inheritance. If possible, she also hoped to find the bitter sea abyss. Actually, I also think it should exist, but so many years have passed, and no one knows where it is. Lin Taxing's handsome face was full of contemplation. According to this saying, the existence of the bitter sea abyss should be extremely secretive. Since this abyss is called the bitter sea abyss, could it be in the sea? Lin Qianqian was obviously very interested in this unknown matter. Is there a sea area called the bitter sea? Everyone looked at each other. Obviously, no one had heard of the existence of the bitter sea. I hope there will be a chance to find it in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. No one could say for sure what would happen in life. Since this place existed, perhaps they would see it in the future. Soon, everyone arrived at the bottom of the abyss. Standing on the ground, everyone quickly found a passage in front of them. The ground is very flat and not full of potholes. This is really amazing. Yeah, I thought that the environment at the bottom of the abyss would be terrible, but it seems to be pretty good. The cultivators from the Lin family and the D family were all overjoyed as they chatted with each other. The two families had been friends for generations, so they were basically very familiar with each other. They were like a family, and there was no sense of unfamiliarity or distance between them. Listen, there seems to be the sound of flowing water in front of us, Lin Shanqian suddenly said. Everyone quieted down and listened carefully to the voice coming from the front. A trace of surprise appeared in their eyes. Really? There really is the sound of flowing water. This is the bottom of the abyss, yet there is still the sound of flowing water. How miraculous! Let's go and take a look. After discovering that there was no danger in the surroundings, everyone's courage increased. They only wanted to explore this place that they had been curious about for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and immediately quickened their pace, quickly moving forward. Chapter 49:31. Daiheoan and the rest were walking at the front. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly noticed that the group of people in front of her had stopped in their tracks and were looking ahead. She couldn't help but feel astonished. Let's go take a look. Debaichen's lips curled into a faint smile as he pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate hand and walked forward. The bottom of the abyss was extremely wide and could accommodate dozens of people walking side by side. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest of the group walked through the abyss. When they arrived, they followed everyone's gaze and looked over. Immediately, a trace of shock appeared on their faces. If I'm not mistaken, this should be an immortal spiritual herb, right? Lin Shanqian raised her voice in disbelief and ecstasy. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. This is an immortal spiritual herb. As an alchemist, she had the best understanding of medicinal herbs and could tell at first glance that this was an immortal spiritual herb. Such a large area of immortal spiritual herbs. How many are there? Lin Taxing couldn't help but exclaim with his mouth agape. This was a rare treasure. Normally, an immortal spiritual herb would fetch a sky-high price, and no one would be willing to sell it. Yet, there are so many immortal spiritual herbs here. This is too scary. For a moment, the crowd couldn't help but rub their eyes, thinking that they were seeing things. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also filled with shock. An immortal spiritual herb was a rare spiritual herb. Its growth requirements were very high. It needed to grow in a place with extremely dense elemental energy and a water source nearby. Most importantly, it liked to live in cracks in the ground. Usually, such an environment was very difficult to find. In the past, there were people who wanted to cultivate immortal spiritual herbs, but the success rate was very low. Coupled with the fact that it grew for a long time, it was already very difficult. Most importantly, immortal spiritual herbs grew in midair and could change their location at any time. As a result, it was even more difficult to cultivate them. Therefore, everyone understood that immortal spiritual herbs were treasures that could only be found by chance. The effects of such treasures were also very shocking. It could increase a cultivator's aptitude to a certain extent. Generally speaking, from the moment a cultivator was born, their aptitude was already determined and couldn't be changed. However, immortal spiritual herbs were the only treasures that could change one's aptitude. As the chances of finding immortal spiritual herbs were too low, everyone assumed that aptitude couldn't be changed. However, such a large area of immortal spiritual herbs had now appeared in front of them. This was simply too crazy. Let's hurry and collect these immortal spiritual herbs. Di Xiaofeng shouted as soon as he reacted. Hearing Emperor Xiaofeng's words, everyone who was immersed in shock came back to their senses and immediately rushed up. If they didn't collect such treasures, they would really deserve to die. As long as they were refined into pills, the effect would, bye. After everyone had finished harvesting, they continued to move forward. But this time there's bye. Chapter 49:32. Hearing Lin Qianqian's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others were all smiles. I'm afraid there aren't many forces that can compare with us. Lin Taxing smiled. We're just lucky. The heavens are still on our side. Ha! Di Xiaofeng smiled handsomely. If I had known, I wouldn't have wasted my time in the ruins. Hong Zhuang, your alchemy skills are so amazing. When the time comes, I'll give these divine, spiritual herbs to you. You'll be able to bring out the best effects after refining them into pills. Lin Qianqian smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang. After the trip to the ruins, her relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang had quickly become closer. She now regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a good sister and did not have any scruples when speaking to her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Okay, immortal spiritual herbs were very precious. She also knew the pill formula for refining immortal spiritual herbs. However, the level of this pill was very high and she still needed to make some progress. Look, it seems like someone used to live here. Daiheoan slowly said after examining the environment in front of them. Only then did everyone realize that the abyss was like a cave and there were several paths in front. Most importantly, they saw the existence of a stone room. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. I didn't expect there to be such a setup in the abyss. How shocking. Who do you think would live here? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. Didn't they say that it's impossible to leave after staying in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm for more than a year? Then who would choose to live here? Could it be that someone has been staying in the Immortal Cloud secret realm all this time? That's not impossible. Di Beichen pondered. Actually, there's plenty of elemental energy here. It's very suitable for cultivators to live here. Mo Yunjue also spoke up. Let's go ahead and take a look. Lin Taxing's eyes sparkled with curiosity, and his expression turned serious. We have to be careful. If the person who lives here is still here, then we'll be plucking their immortal spirit grass. I hope we won't anger them. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression turned grave. Indeed, with such a huge patch of immortal herbs, it was very strange that no one was plucking them. If that's the case, wouldn't we be in trouble? Lin Qianqian asked. Why don't we leave now? After all, they had already gained a lot. Even if they left now, there was nothing to regret. Hearing this, hesitation appeared in everyone's eyes. How about we just leave like this? Emperor Xiaofeng couldn't help but ask. He was very clear about the importance of these immortal herbs to the clan. As long as he could bring these immortal spirit herbs back, it would only be a matter of time before the disciples of the clan would have their aptitudes raised and surpass the cultivators of the other clans. Everything in front of them was still unclear. If they were to lose their lives here, that would be the worst thing that could happen. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. This method was very reliable and wasn't a bad decision. However, just as everyone was hesitating whether to leave or not, they suddenly heard a familiar voice from inside. Ao Junquang, you shameless villain. Chapter 49:33. Listen, that seems to be Yi's voice. Lin Qianqian's expression froze. Then an anxious look appeared. Yes, it seems to be Yi's voice. Why is Yi here? I seem to hear her scolding Ao Junquang. Lin Taxing's face also showed a worried expression. Yi was his cousin. The relationship between the two was also very close. After hearing Yi's voice, Di Xiaofeng's expression was also a little nervous. Although he couldn't respond to Yi's feelings for him, in his heart, Yi had always been his most concerned cousin. If something happened to Yi, he would definitely be extremely anxious. Let's go take a look. The original worry about the owner of this place was thrown away by everyone in an instant. Thinking that Lin Yi might be in danger inside, everyone rushed in immediately. Everyone couldn't help praying in their hearts, only hoping that Lin Yi would be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also exerted their speed to the extreme and rushed over immediately. When they arrived, they found that Lin Yi's clothes were stained with blood. Beside her, Ao Lingxiao was seriously injured and fell to the ground. His clothes were completely dyed red with blood. Yi, Ling Xiao. A worried voice sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others quickly came to the two people's side. How are you? Are you okay? After Lin Yi saw Bailey Hongzhuang and others appear, a trace of blood appeared on her pale face. Lin Xianxian took Lin Yi's hands and supported her to prevent her from falling. Yi, what's going on? Lin Xianxian's eyes were full of worry and anger. Who hurt you like this? Ao Junquang. Lin Yi saw Lin Xianxian as if she saw her backbone. Ao Junquang, Jun Lingxuan, they are all here. Lin Xianxian quickly took out the medicinal pill and fed it to Lin Yi, then asked, where are they now? They heard you coming just now, so they quickly escaped. You go and chase them. They're just ahead. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Emperor Xiaofeng and Lin Taxing nodded and immediately led other cultivators to chase forward. This damned Jun Lingxuan. I will not let him escape this time. The Jun family has done so many outrageous things to us over the years. This time, we'll kill Jun Lingxuan first as interest. That Ao Junquang is also not a good person. He actually killed his father and mother in order to become the head of the family. After relying on the Jun family, he completely betrayed us. This time, I'll kill him as well to save myself the trouble. Regardless of whether it was the Lin clan or the D clan, the cultivators were already filled with rage over this matter. Before they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, they had already wanted to kill these few fellows to vent their anger. Now that these fellows had gathered together, they naturally wouldn't let them go. What's more, these damn guys actually seriously injured Lin Yi and Ao Ling Xiao. This was something that they couldn't forgive. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the seriously injured Ao Ling Xiao, and her face became extremely ugly. In her sight, Ao Ling Xiao's chest was directly cut open, revealing a large piece of flesh. Even the internal organs were faintly visible. Blood was left all over the ground. How tragic it looked. After seeing this situation, Di Beichen's heart was filled with shock. As someone who also had a younger sister, she couldn't imagine how someone could do such a thing to a family member. He can't be called a human anymore. He is simply a beast. Mo Yunjue's black eyes were filled with coldness. It was as cold as winter, without the slightest bit of warmth. He had been with Ao Ling Xiao for so long. Even though he never said anything on the surface, he had already regarded Ao Ling Xiao as a brother in his heart. Chapter 49:35. What was the situation before? Why don't you tell us in detail? Lin Xianxian helped Lin Yi to sit down on the side. After noticing that the latter's condition was fine, she asked, when I passed by here before, I saw this abyss. I remember the abyss I had heard before, so I came down. After I came in, I saw the immortal spirit grass outside. At that time, I wanted to pick the immortal spirit grass, but I suddenly heard some movement inside, and I heard the name Ao Ling Xiao. Out of curiosity, I got closer. As a result, I found that Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Sou, Ao Junquang, and a group of cultivators of the Ao family were all here. They seemed to have chased Ao Ling Xiao all the way here, but there were more of them after Ao Ling Xiao went in, so they didn't know where Ao Ling Xiao was. I have tried my best to minimize the movement, but I didn't expect to be discovered by them. They wanted to kill me. Lin Yi's face was pale. She seemed to recall the scenes that happened before, but she still had a lingering fear. I'm no match for them alone. Ao Ling Xiao only came out to protect me. Yi Mo sighed. If it weren't for me, he wouldn't have suffered such a serious injury. It's all my fault. Lin Yi's eyes were misty. Her sobbing appearance was very distressing. This is something that no one expected. Don't blame yourself. Lin Xianxian comforted. She knew Lin Yi's character very well. Although she was always a bit impudent, she was kind-hearted. This time, Ao Junquang was implicated. She must be very upset. No. Lin Yi shook her head. It's all my fault. If I wasn't discovered by them, Ao Ling Xiao would be able to leave. The next moment, Lin Yi raised her head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, second cousin-in-law. You must cure him. I will take good care of him. In the future, I will also take part in his revenge. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. She immediately raised a faint smile and nodded. Okay. Lin Xianqian also nodded. When I first learned that he was Ao Ling Xiao, I still had some doubts in my heart. However, from this incident, it was clear that he was a good person. If he could really kill his parents, he wouldn't have stood out to save you in such a dangerous situation. No one was stupid. In such a dangerous situation, Ao Ling Xiao couldn't have been acting. This action was enough to prove his character. If he is your benefactor, then he is our benefactor. This Ao Zhengquang is so hateful. We must kill him to vent our hatred. Big sister, thank you. Seeing Lin Xianqian so supportive of her idea, Lin Yi also showed a smile on her face. On the other side, Ao Zhengquang retreated with Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou, but there was a puzzled look on his face. Young Master Jun, why do we have to leave? Even if it's a head-on battle, we won't be afraid of them. Moreover, there's so many immortal herbs outside. It would be a pity if we just gave up like this. Ao Zhengquang's face was filled with unwillingness. His heart trembled when he thought of the large amount of immortal spirit grass. Chapter 49:36. Listening to Ao Zhengquang's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou looked a little helpless. In fact, since the last time they fought with Bailey Hongzhuang, they had a shadow in their hearts. Just Bailey Hongzhuang could make them so embarrassed. Coupled with Bewitching and others, they knew what the situation would be like without thinking. Therefore, when they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and others were approaching, their first thought was to leave quickly. Only in this way it was the safest. However, in the face of Ao Zhengquang's inquiry, they obviously couldn't say their inner thoughts directly. They could only find other reasons. From her footsteps, we can judge that the number of people exceeds us. Di Xiaofeng and others are there. It is disadvantageous for us to fight head-on. Jun Lingxuan's face was calm. His eyebrows were full of seriousness. Hearing this, Ao Zhengquang understood and nodded, so that's the case. But it's a pity for us to leave like this. Those immortal spirit grasses are of great help to us. Moreover, Ao Ling Xiao doesn't seem to be dead yet. Ao Zhengquang's eyes were full of depression. He was so close to killing Ao Ling Xiao directly. However, it was just for a moment that he didn't succeed. He was looking forward to killing Ao Ling Xiao every day. In this way, the truth would be buried forever, and there would never be a day when it would be revealed. Jun Lingxuan glanced at Ao Zhengquang. His handsome face was displeased. I asked you to solve it cleanly before, but you wasted time. If you didn't waste time humiliating him, not only Ao Ling Xiao, but Lin Yi would be dead now. Speaking of this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes also showed a trace of ruthlessness. Jun Shitao died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and others. He had already made an oath to avenge Jun Shitao. If they killed Lin Yi, at least they could get some interest. Now, although the two were seriously injured, they could recover again after a while. How could he vent the resentment in his heart? After being reprimanded by Jun Lingxuan, Ao Zhengquang suddenly drooped his head and didn't dare to say anything more. Don't worry now. Although this immortal spirit grasses fell into their hands, we are still in the immortal cloud's secret realm. We still have many opportunities to snatch this immortal spirit grasses back. Xiao Shou's voice was gentle. Her delicate little face had a soft smile. The most important thing now is to meet up with our family's cultivators. Once we meet up, we don't have to be afraid of them. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. In my opinion, we should be able to meet our family's cultivators soon. Of Jun Lingxuan is regarding this. They also felt extremely helpless. After using the escape talisman previously, they appeared in a random place. Although they didn't know where it was, they knew that it was far away. After that, They kept approaching the center, but they didn't meet the Jun family and Xiao family cultivators for a long time. Fortunately, they met Ao Junquang and others when they approached the abyss. It happened that Ao Junquang and others were chasing Ao Lingxiao, so they joined in. However, they didn't expect things to be so coincidental. Bailey Hongzhuang and others also appeared here, complicating the situation. Quick, they should be in front. Chapter 49-37. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with disgust and hatred. The grudge between him and Jun Lingxuan had been going on for a long time. For so many years, both sides had always disliked each other. They just wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of each other. Unfortunately, there had never been a good opportunity. This time, Jun Lingxuan dared to seriously injure Lin Yi. He must kill this guy. The cultivators of the Di family and the Lin family were also angry. It had become normal for the two sides to be at each other's throats. But this time, Yi Xuan injured their people. He must pay the price. Jun Lingxuan and others were talking, thinking about how to find an opportunity to get the immortal spirit grass back. Suddenly, they heard the movement from behind. A hint of nervousness appeared on everyone's faces. Damn it, those guys are catching up. Jun Lingxuan cursed. Ao Junquang's expression was tense and anxious. There are a lot of footsteps. I'm afraid there are more people than us. Let's go. Once they catch up with us, it will be troublesome. Xiao Sou's face also showed a worried expression. Both sides were now in a situation where one of them had to die. Once Di Xiaofeng and others caught up with them, they would definitely leave all of them here. There are a few forks in front. Let's run there and spread out. Don't be caught by them. Jun Lingxuan looked at the intersection ahead and said. Along the way, they had gained a better understanding of the environment. There were many caves here, and many of them were connected to each other. In short, this was a very suitable place for hide and seek. Coupled with the dark environment here, it was not so easy to find a person. It was precisely because of this environment that they couldn't find Ao Lingxiao's figure before. They just didn't expect the situation to change in a short time. As Jun Lingxuan's voice fell, Ao Junquang and the others did not dare to delay. Their figures quickly swept out and scuttled into the fork road. When Di Xiaofeng and the others caught up, they saw the fork in the road ahead. He immediately frowned. This environment really isn't suitable for chasing people. Looks like we have to split up. Lin Taking nodded slightly. Then let's go this way. Then I'll go this way. Di Xiaofeng looked at another intersection and said. I'll take the third fork, Dai Haoan said. Soon, the crowd split into several groups and chased inside. Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan were walking on the same path. Both of them were rushing inside at their fastest speed. I wonder where this place is. I didn't expect this road to be so long. Xiao Sou looked at her surroundings with surprise in her eyes. When she first entered this abyss, she was very surprised by the environment below. Now, the deeper she went, the more mysterious she felt the situation was. The sound of flowing water ahead is getting clearer and clearer. It might be an underground river, Jun Lingxuan said thoughtfully. Then do we still go there? Xiao Sou looked worried. If there's no way out, then we'll be caught by Bailey Hongzhuang and others sooner or later. Now she didn't have an escape talisman in her hand. Once they were caught, it would be difficult to escape death. Jun Lingxuan's face was also very ugly. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This must be the situation now. Chapter 49-38. Xiao Sou originally felt extremely worried, but when she saw Jun Lingxuan's serious side profile, her heart suddenly calmed down a lot. However, Jun Lingxuan, who was thinking of a solution, did not notice the change in Xiao Sou's expression at all. After Bailey Hongzhuang fed Ao Lingxiao the elixir, his physical body gradually showed signs of healing under the effect of the elixir. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also used the healing medicine without hesitation. The silver needles also began to treat the internal injuries. The visible injuries were already very terrible, but the internal injuries were more troublesome. Once the internal injuries were left, Ao Lingxiao's future would be affected. Breaking through the barrier of space was something that all cultivators could not bear. Lin Xianqian and others watched Bailey Hongzhuang busily treating Ao Lingxiao. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's treatment methods, so they were not surprised. However, it was the first time for Lin Xianqian and Lin Yi to see it. Both of them were amazed. Hongzhuang's medical skills are really not weaker than alchemy. I didn't expect her to be so powerful. Lin Xianqian sighed with a smile. When she first learned that Bailey Hongzhuang cured her aunt, she was also very surprised. Now, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's smooth movements, she already understood everything. After waiting for so long, I don't know if they have caught up. Lin Yi's injury was not serious. Because of Ao Lingxiao's appearance, Jun Lingxuan and others focused their attention on Ao Lingxiao, so they did not have much time to pay attention to her. It was precisely because of this that she was only initially injured. After taking the elixir, she had recovered a lot. They should be able to catch up. Di Beichun said slowly. Since there are only 7 of them, my elder brother will definitely be able to catch up with them. After all, the Lin family and the Di family had more than 20 cultivators. Even if they stayed here, the number would completely exceed Jun Lingxuan and others. I hope so. A trace of hatred flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Sou, and Ao Junkwang are all cunning people. I only hope that they can be dealt with as soon as possible. Wait patiently. Star and the others will come back after they catch up. You are injured. Star and Xiaofeng want to avenge you. Hearing the name Di Xiaofeng, Lin Yi's eyes flashed dimly. She used to be the happiest when she heard this name named Xiaofeng. Although it was just a short period of time, the situation was completely different for her. During this period of time, she had thought about it for a long time. In the end, she decided to completely let go of this matter. Although she couldn't do it in a short time, she believed that she would definitely do it. Noticing the change in Lin Yi's expression, Lin Xianqian felt a little helpless in her heart. It seems that Lin Yi still didn't take it lightly. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very fast. After she finished bandaging Ao Lingxiao's wound, she stopped. Wife, when will Ling Xiao wake up? Di Beichun asked with concern. I'm afraid he will be unconscious for a while. He should wake up at night. The pitch-black watery eyes rippled with warm light. But his injury is serious. It is not suitable for him to move. I am afraid he will have to stay here for a while. Hearing this, Di Beichun nodded slightly. As long as Ling Xiao is fine, we will stay here for a while. Chapter 49-39. Just as Di Beichun and the rest were waiting for the results, a series of footsteps finally came from inside. They're finally back. Lin Xianqian heaved a sigh of relief. I've been waiting for so long, and there's still no news. I couldn't help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly, and her eyes were clear and calm. Now I can rest assured. However, when they saw the situation in front of them, their faces immediately darkened. In their line of sight, Jun Lingxuan was holding Daiheoan hostage. The dagger in his hand was placed horizontally at Daiheoan's neck, and there was blood seeping out faintly. Xiao Sou and Ao Junkwang were walking beside him, while Di Xiaofeng and the rest were following behind them with ashen faces. Jun Lingxuan, hurry up and release Haoan. Di Xiaofeng roared. His eyes were like a cold lake in October, cold and filled with killing intent. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan sneered. As long as you let us leave here, I'll naturally release him. Otherwise, Jun Lingxuan's face became ferocious. Otherwise, we'll perish together with him. You can just wait to collect his corpse. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun couldn't help but look surprised when they saw this situation. Big brother, how did this happen? Di Beichun's obsidian-like eyes were filled with haze. They were less bright and more gloomy. There was a fork in the road ahead, so we split up. We didn't expect to fall into Jun Lingxuan's trap. The people who were traveling with Haoan all died in his hands. When we arrived, he was about to kill Haoan, but when he saw us appear, he held him hostage. Hearing this, Bewitching and the rest immediately understood. Master, this Jun Lingxuan is really not easy to deal with. Baisher's eyes were filled with disgust and unwillingness. The last time they met, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou were already powerless. They didn't expect an escape talisman to save them. This time, it was a sure-kill situation, but they didn't expect Dai Heoan to fall into their hands. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest again, Jun Lingxuan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang, what did you do to Shitao? Jun Lingxuan's eyes were sharp and sinister. He already knew the result in his heart. But if he couldn't confirm it himself, he still wouldn't believe it. Do you think Jun Shitao's alive? Under such circumstances, Di Beichun's voice was cold and indifferent. His handsome face was filled with disdain. It's ridiculous to ask such a question now. After receiving this affirmative answer, Jun Lingxuan's eyes turned red with hatred and murderous intent. He gritted his teeth and said, Di Beichun, I'll definitely kill you to comfort Shitao's soul in heaven. Then I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Di Beichun said casually. A cold smile appeared on his sharp face. Every time we meet, it's so difficult for you to escape. You want to kill me? In your next life. His cold voice was like a glacier in the extreme north. It pierced Jun Lingxuan's heart and made it bleed. Di Beichun, don't be too arrogant. Xiao Sou couldn't help but speak up. Anger appeared on her beautiful white face. You were just lucky these 2 times. The next time we meet, you'll definitely be defeated by us. Chapter 4940. Bailey Hongzhuang stared mockingly at Xiao Sou. Her peerless face was brimming with a devilish smile. Xiao Sou's fair and pretty face instantly stiffened. Even her earth-shattering fury froze in that instant. She was like a deflated balloon, leaving only defeat and unwillingness. In the past, she had never taken Bailey Hongzhuang seriously. She only felt that this woman from the underworld was not worthy of being her opponent. However, the power that Bailey Hongzhuang had displayed the last time had given her an indescribable sense of defeat. Even now, she still had a lingering fear in her heart when she recalled that battle. Noticing the dejection in Xiao Sou's eyes, Lin Qianqian and the rest were astonished. The usually arrogant Xiao Sou had actually revealed such an expression. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. It was obvious that Xiao Sou had suffered a great setback in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, I have indeed underestimated you. Xiao Sou's eyes were burning as she stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her clear black and white eyes were filled with endless seriousness and persistence. However, this does not mean that I will definitely defeat you in the future. In the past, she had always been arrogant. Even when she had been reprimanded by her father, she still did not take it to heart. She only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's victory had been due to luck. However, after experiencing the previous incident, her way of thinking had changed. She now regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as an enemy that she must defeat. She wanted to rely on her own strength to completely defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. Noticing Xiao Sou's persistence and ambition, a trace of astonishment flashed across her black eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect that the previous incident would cause Xiao Sou to suddenly wake up. In the next moment, an enchanting smile bloomed at the corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth, with a little playfulness and a little sarcasm. I'm sorry, but I have a special characteristic. Anyone who loses to me will never have the chance to make a comeback. The slender willow leaf eyebrows were slightly raised. The deep phoenix eyes were blooming with a fierce and intimidating brilliance. Bailey Hongzhuang just stood there calmly, but her momentum was overwhelming. You don't be delusional. Don't be delusional. These words were like a sharp sword, piercing into Xiao Sou's heart fiercely. Facing that pair of bright eyes, the confidence that she had gathered before was shattered in an instant. In the face of the enemy, Bailey Hongzhuang would never be courteous. What's more, this woman, first she wanted to deal with her man, and then she dealt with her family. no matter which point at it Xiao's had. Lin Qian, calm as Hongzhuang's of is. They had never seen such a Bailey Hongzhuang. Usually, she was gentle and pleasant, and anyone who talked to her would feel like a spring breeze. But it wasn't until this moment that they realized that Bailey Hongzhuang was just being approachable to them. Facing the enemy, she was as sharp as a knife. Just like the cold winter, it was bone-chilling. There was no warmth at all. Second cousin-in-law is really domineering. Lin Yi's cheeks showed a trace of excitement. Her bright eyes flickered with admiration. She suddenly remembered what Bailey Hongzhuang said to Xiao So when they were in the underground market. It turned out that from then on, second cousin-in-law had not regarded Xiao So as an opponent. Chapter 49-41. Jun Lingxuan looked at the beautiful Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, and a trace of amazement flashed across his handsome eyes. He suddenly felt that his previous judgment was somewhat wrong. This woman, even if she had no background, was still infinitely beautiful. Xiao So looked stunned. The other party's words directly made her speechless. Jun Lingxuan, let Howen go. Di Beichen's eyes flashed a trace of sharpness, and his low and magnetic voice was filled with endless pressure. Jun Lingxuan unconsciously tightened his grip on the dagger and increased his strength. Blood immediately dyed the dagger red. Unless you let us go, even if we die, he will have to be our scapegoat. A.O. Zhengquang also said, this Dai Heowen is the #1 figure in your D family. Are you going to sacrifice him? Hearing this, Di Beichen frowned. It was not easy to seize this opportunity to capture Jun Lingxuan and the other two, but he did not expect such an unforeseen event to occur. If they directly attacked, it would mean that they had given up on Dai Heowen. It was impossible for them to do such a thing. Di Xiaofeng's expression was very ugly. Long before they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, they had already set their target. As long as they found the opportunity, they would definitely get rid of Jun Lingxuan. Now that Jun Zitao had been dealt with, it would not be enough if Jun Lingxuan did not die. You don't have to worry about me. It's no big deal if I die. We must not let them go. Dai Heowen's face suddenly showed a trace of fearless heroism and determination. In the next second, he directly stepped forward, intending to commit suicide. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but be stunned. They did not expect Dai Heowen to make such a decision. Jun Lingxuan was obviously shocked by Dai Heowen's actions, but he still held on tightly to Dai Heowen, not letting him succeed in killing himself. Howen, everyone's eyes turned red when they saw that Dai Heowen was intending to commit suicide. All these years, Dai Heowen had been busy with the family's affairs, and he was very close to everyone. At this juncture, Dai Heowen was even willing to sacrifice himself for the family. How could they not be moved? However, the more Dai Heowen acted like this, the more they could not bear it. Let them go this time. We can't let Howen lose his life like this. Yes, if we miss this opportunity, we will have another chance in the future. How can we exchange our brother's life? At that moment, the D family and Lin family's cultivators could not help but. They really could not bear of this situation. Seeing Hao and S's eyes of Jun Lingxian, Jun Lingxuan's Hao, and Jun Lingxuan's eyes. Jun Lingxuan, let go of Haoen. We'll let you leave. We'll let you go. Di Xiaofeng sighed, but his ink-black eyes became firm. No matter what, they could not exchange the lives of their clansmen for success. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan's eyes flashed a trace of complacency. His voice suddenly became loud. Get out of the way. We will let him go after we leave here. Are you kidding? Lin Taxing's face was serious and angry. If Howen leaves with you, you will definitely kill him. You are not qualified to negotiate with me now. Jun Lingxuan's voice was cold and complacent, as if he had everything under control. Chapter 49-42. Howen, don't be silly. Lin Yi couldn't help but speak up. Her sweet and gentle face was full of concern and relief. There will be plenty of opportunities to deal with them in the future. You guys, Daehaeon's eyes flashed with a trace of crystal, but he suppressed it. His gaze became exceptionally bright and warm. Seeing this, a smile appeared at the corner of everyone's lips. This may indeed be an excellent opportunity lost, but they felt it was worth it to save their loved ones. Don't be long-winded here. We are leaving now. You all stay here and don't move. Whoever dares to move, I will kill him. Jun Lingshuan's gaze was cold and chilling. The dagger in his hand was getting closer to Daehaeon. He pulled Daehaeon and walked forward. Whoever dares to follow, I will kill him immediately. Seeing this, everyone could only stop. Although their hearts were full of unwillingness, they did not dare to follow rashly. They couldn't gamble with Daehaeon's life. With Jun Lingshuan's temper, I'm afraid he won't let Haon go. What should we do? Linnie couldn't help but pace back and forth. She kept rubbing her hands. Her eyebrows were full of worry and anxiety like ants on a hot pan. There is no other way now. Lin Taxing sighed. His determined young face was full of worry. Once we move forward, he will notice our movements. Damn it, I didn't expect Jun Lingshuan to hold Haon hostage. Di Xiaofeng cursed. He really didn't expect this situation. If he knew this, they wouldn't have acted separately before. Are the other people who acted with Haon dead? Just when everyone was troubled by this, Emo Yunjue suddenly asked a question. Yes. Di Xiaofeng nodded. If we didn't happen to arrive, Haon would be dead. Emo Yunjue's eyes, which were as deep as a black hole, quietly flashed a glimmer of light. In the blink of an eye, he quietly glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chun, but did not say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally understood the meaning of Emo Yunjue's words. In fact, when she saw the previous hostage situation, she also had the same doubts in her heart. Wife, do you think there may be something wrong with Haon? Di Beichen transmitted his voice to Bailey Hongzhuang. When the three of them looked at each other tacitly, he already knew it. Not only him, but Hongzhuang and Emo Yunjue also had the same idea. That's just a guess. Zhao's eyes, which were as beautiful as the autumn moon, were calm. It's just a guess of the moment. I think there is something wrong with Daehaeon's sudden suicide. Emo Yunjue transmitted his voice. This was the D family's family matter, so he shouldn't be involved. However, if there really was a spy, then it was like a tumor that could endanger the safety of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others at any time. I think so too. Bailey Hongzhuang was silent. The biggest turning point in this whole matter was Daehaeon's actions. Originally, everyone had been thinking about making a choice. However, from the moment Daehaeon chose to commit suicide, everyone's hearts were instantly moved by Daehaeon, so they chose to give up. In fact, this matter itself could be Daehaeon's true thoughts. However, they looked at it with suspicion, and it was indeed a bit strange. Chapter 49-43. Di Xiaofeng also noticed the slight change in Di Beichen's expression as he waited. He thought about Emo Yunjue's question. As the young master of the Lin family, he had been trained by the elders all these years and was a very observant person. Emo Yunjue's question didn't seem to be a problem at first, but at this time, it seemed a little strange. Therefore, he immediately guessed the guesses of Di Beichun and the others. Beichun, you suspect Haon? Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. His black eyes were as bright as the stars, as if they could see through everything. Big brother, what do you think? Di Beichen didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked a question in return. He was different from Di Xiaofeng. Di Xiaofeng had been treating Daehaeon as a good brother all these years. They were close and had a deep relationship. He probably wouldn't think in this direction. However, he had just returned to the family not long ago. Obviously, he didn't have such concerns. Di Xiaofeng pondered for a moment. There was hesitation between his brows. It shouldn't be, right? Haon is a disciple of the Di family. Moreover, the family has always treated him well. He shouldn't have done such a thing. Of course, we can't be sure just based on this. Ever since the incident with Di Kaiyuan, he knew that you couldn't judge a book by its cover. What you thought wasn't always right. Most of the time, it was the people you trusted the most who deceived you. According to Father's judgment, What happened to you was done by the Jun family. Therefore, this spy has been hiding in the family for a long time. Haoen's age doesn't seem to match. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichun. This was the biggest problem, he thought. Di Beichun's eyes changed. He said in a low voice, "There's no rush. Let's wait and see." Okay. The two brothers looked at each other. For them now, finding the spy was undoubtedly an extremely important matter. As long as this tumor was uprooted, the family would be safe and they would be at ease. A moment later, everyone rushed out, worried about Daihaoen's safety. When everyone arrived, they found Daihaoen lying in a pool of blood, while Jun Lingxuan and the other two were climbing up the abyss. This damned Jun Lingxuan! Lin Taxing cursed aloud. His handsome face turned red and the corners of his eyes almost cracked. His eyebrows were full of volcanic rage. In his line of sight, Daihaoen was stabbed in the chest by Jun Lingxuan's dagger. Blood flowed to the ground, and Daihaoen was clearly unconscious. "Hongzhuang, take a look at Haoen's situation," Di Xiaofeng said. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately checked on Daihaoen's situation. Her beautiful brows furrowed, and her expression was somewhat complicated. "Hongzhuang, is Haoen incurable?" Lin Qianqian's expression was very ugly. She had guessed that such a thing might happen, but when it really happened, she still couldn't accept it. After all, she had a good relationship with Daihaoen over the years. "Don't worry, his injury is very serious, but he can still be saved." "Really?" Lin Qianqian was stunned. "The dagger has already pierced his heart. Can he still be saved?" "Young madam, aren't your medical skills too exquisite?" Everyone was dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with shock. Everyone knew that once the heart was pierced, it was impossible to survive. Chapter 49-44. Wifey. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows slightly. He noticed a change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. He was afraid that there was something wrong. Generally speaking, if a dagger pierced his heart directly, Haoen wouldn't be able to survive. However, Haoen's heart is in a different position from ours. Because of that, the dagger didn't pierce his heart. Once she said that, everyone finally understood. Their eyes were filled with surprise and joy. "I didn't expect Haoen to have such a characteristic." Lin Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. If it wasn't for the deviation, Haoen would have died in the hands of Jun Lingxuan. "I knew that a despicable and shameless guy like Jun Lingxuan wouldn't keep his word. If Haoen wasn't lucky, he would really be finished this time. I think Jun Lingxuan wouldn't have thought that it would end like this." Everyone wanted to chase after Jun Lingxuan. However, looking at the height of the abyss, they thought that by the time they climbed up, Jun Lingxuan and the other two would have escaped in an unknown direction. In the end, they chose to give up. After Bailey Hongzhuang treated Daihaoen's injuries, Di Beichun, Di Xiaofeng, and Imo Yundue walked to her side. "Wifey, what do you think about this matter?" "I can't make a conclusion about this matter at the moment." Her bright eyes were filled with complexity and thought. Originally, she thought that Daihaoen was a spy. However, what happened later made her somewhat uncertain. It's very likely that Daihaoen knew that his body was different, so he colluded with Jun Lingxuan and the others. Only in this way would it not arouse suspicion. Mo Yunjue said in a low voice. "It's indeed possible." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. However, he hit him very hard. He was only a hair's breadth away from his heart. If there's even the slightest mistake, he'll lose his life. "If it's you guys, can you do it?" Hearing this, Di Beichun and the other two sunk into silence. In this situation, it was indeed very difficult for them to make a judgment. After a while, Di Beichun said, "If he's not a spy, then he's really been thinking for the family. If he really is a spy, then he will be very scary. He would be terrifying." At this point, the hearts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were all shocked. Indeed, if he could even be so ruthless to himself, then he was indeed a ruthless character. He was not someone that ordinary people could deal with. Based on this matter alone, we can't come to a conclusion for the time being. Why don't we take a look first? If it really is a fox, it will show its tail sooner or later. We have to be more careful. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were solemn and serious. No matter who the spy was, he would not show any mercy. This was because he would not tolerate the existence of such a person who would endanger his family. Moreover, this person caused his younger brother to wander outside for so many years. He even almost caused them to lose their lives. Dai Heoan and Ao Lingxiao were both unconscious. The Di family and the Lin family's cultivators were guarding by the side. This was the abyss. Other cultivators could come in at any time. They could only guard here to ensure their safety. Big brother, what's inside? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. She was still very curious about this place. Chapter 49-45. Wifey, do you want to go inside and take a look? Di Beichen knew Bailey Hongzhuang very well. He could guess her thoughts even with just a glance. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I always feel that this place is very special. I want to go inside and see what's inside. However, since elder brother and the others have gone so far without encountering anyone, the people who used to live here should be gone. Since you want to go and take a look, then let's go in. Di Beichun showed a knowing smile to Bailey Hongzhuang. The mischievous look made his handsome face glow instantly, like the sunshine in March, warm and charming. Yeah, you can go in and take a look. Di Xiaofeng also smiled. Anyway, we won't leave here for a while. It's convenient to go in and take a look. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun with bright eyes. Her delicate and beautiful face was full of mischief and excitement. Then, shall we go in? Okay. Di Beichun stretched out his hand and gently scratched Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate nose. His smile became warmer and warmer. Let's go in and take a look too. Lin Xianqian and Lin Taxing also said. Most of the cultivators decided to stay here to guard Dai Heoan and Lin Xianqian. After all, once other cultivators appeared, it was impossible to not have enough people to protect them. Although Lin Yi also wanted to go, she decided to stay here out of guilt for Ao Lingxiao. When Di Xiaofeng saw that both Lin Xianqian and Lin Taxing wanted to go, he also chose to stay here to lead the team. Therefore, only Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue, Lin Xianqian, and Lin Taxing went in together. Although there were not many people, their combat power was very strong, so everyone was relieved. The environment inside was still dim. They could only see clearly under the illumination of the light power. Hongzhuang, you were right. Someone should have lived here before. Lin Xianqian noticed that there were a few simple houses nearby, but they were covered in dust. It was obvious that the owner had left many years ago. To be able to build such a room in this abyss, this is really something. Lin Taxing sighed and looked around. In fact, he also wanted to see if there were any other gains after going deeper. However, as the crowd continued onward, they only discovered that the path was incomparably long, and they did not gain anything. This road is really long. How long do we have to walk until we reach the end? Just when everyone felt that this road seemed endless, the environment in front of them suddenly attracted their attention. This is an altar? A circular altar suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight. Taking a closer look, he realized that half of the altar was black and the other half was white. He could vaguely feel the energy waves coming from the altar. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately discovered that the altar was filled with the two attributes of darkness and light. Suddenly, a trace of surprise appeared in her eyes, but she immediately concealed it. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang quietly looked at each other. They did not expect such an altar to appear here. It was a combination of these two attributes. It was really strange. Hey, this altar is so strange. It is a combination of light and dark attributes. How could someone make such an altar? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.